Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. A few months ago, when we did our experiment on electromagnetism, it got my kids thinking about electricity. So I thought to myself, let's do that classic lemon battery experiment. You know, the one where you place the electrodes in the lemon and then you power something very small. I searched around on Amazon and I found this guy. It was only about $6 and it worked great. And then that got my kids thinking,
if a lemon could do it, could a pumpkin?
That got me thinking, if a pumpkin could be its own battery, could it be its own jack-o'-lantern? So stick around. This is the story and how we, hopefully, and since I'm assuming you're watching this, we were probably successful in making a self-powered jack-o'-lantern. So the classic lemon battery experiment worked like a charm.
How is that possible about a lemon charging a clock?
For this experiment, all you're going to need are some galvanized nails, some copper tubing, some alligator clip lead wires, and of course some pumpkins. I got the copper tubing and the galvanized nail at our local hardware store, and you can find alligator clip lead wires in your auto parts store in the electronics section. How do you know if a nail is galvanized or not? Well, it'll usually say so on the label. And by the way, no thanks to Home Depot and their criminally loose definition of medium-sized pumpkins. I've seen bigger pumpkins in candy bags. Shame on you, Home Depot. So to get the size of pumpkins we wanted to experiment on, we were going to have to go straight to the farm. A pumpkin farm. Every summer when I was a kid, I worked on a cucumber farm. And I learned real quick that very few people in this country work as hard as farmers. So I take every opportunity I can to take the kids to a farm. The homeschooling opportunities on a farm are nearly endless. We spent the morning talking about the whole farm-to-table concept that we see in most of our restaurants. And of course, who doesn't like taking a moment and playing on a big tractor? And maybe I'm a little biased because deep down I'll always be a country boy, but there's always something beautiful and efficient about a farm, and you never know what you're going to see. This place had a tractor in the sky. I mean, look at that. It's beautiful. And did you catch that corn maze? If you had told me they had constructed their corn maze out of a giant Chick-fil-A logo, I'd have told you were crazy. And as you can see, I would have been wrong. But after spending some time on their playground, playing with their farm animals, and spending way too much time in the corn maze, it was time finally to get some pumpkins. And the pumpkin farm did not disappoint. We got a full barrel of them. In fact, we liked them so much, we ended up getting another one. But with the rain settling in, it was time to load up the pumpkins and head home, because there's plenty of science to be talked about in these pumpkins. In full disclosure, I totally had a man moment when I thought I could just jam this brute force into the pumpkin. That was an utter fail. You're going to need a drill. I'm not sure why I found it so fun drilling into the pumpkin. I learned a little bit about myself today. I like drilling into pumpkins. So here we have our pumpkin. And before we get too far into this, we need to kind of test our concept. Can we produce some energy right now? So we have our pumpkin, and you can see our galvanized nail and the copper plate. Now we have our multimeter, and all that's left is to connect the leads. And as you can see, we now have some voltage.
Now it's time to see if our pumpkin can power the clock.
Our next step is just setting up our pumpkins. As you can see, it's time to attach the wires, and what you're going to do is you want to connect a wire from the positive to the negative, just like a battery. In our case, the galvanized nail is serving as the positive terminal, and our copper piping is serving as the negative terminal. And using your alligator clip leads, you just clip one lead to the nail and the other lead to the copper pipe, and you're just going to repeat these steps. Your first pumpkin is going to have a free copper pipe, and your last pumpkin is going to have a free nail. And you will use those free terminals to attach to whatever it is you're trying to power. At that point, after a long and successful day, I knew we were all set up. And that is when the homeschool gods came in and said, nope. If you're a homeschooler, you've been there. You planned out your lesson, you had everything go well. For us, we were going to expand on our electromagnets, talk about electricity, make a lemon battery, and really go crazy and make a self-powered jack-o'-lantern. We were going to turn this into a fun day at the farm. We had a great day picking apples, picking pumpkins, going through corn mazes, talking about all kinds of science things. And then it all just went off the rails. We couldn't get it to work, no matter what we tried. We started with one pumpkin, we went to 3 pumpkins. At one time, I had 7 pumpkins wired together. You can see here we even tried splitting the pumpkins to get more power because that's how some people do the lemon battery experiment. I couldn't get the light to work. Not knowing what was wrong, we went back to the basics and went back to the lemons and see if we could get the lemon light to work. And we couldn't do it. I was beyond frustrated, and we've all been there. It looked like it was going to fail. And then I realized my bulb was bad. Now I legit went to college for 11 years. It wasn't that the bulb didn't work. I tested it. I went to Home Depot walking in saying I need an LED light, but I came home with an incandescent bulb.
Are you stupid or something? Stupid is, stupid does, sir.
So when you hook this up to a regular battery, which we did to test it, it works just fine. But a handful of lemons and a handful of pumpkins are going to come up way short. You see this? This is what you're going to need. But even with my new LED light, I was starting to lose faith. So I stuck with the lemons because we were beginning to run out of pumpkins. And as you can see, I was by myself because it was the end of the day. The kids were hungry and tired, and me not being a fan of failure, I was finally rewarded with a payoff. It's the small victories in life. Now that I realize we were using the wrong bulb, this setup is probably unnecessarily complicated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half split lemons, wires going everywhere. Get the right bulb next time. Alright, with a newfound sense of energy, it was time to reset up our pumpkin scenario. And voila, we have a light source for our jack-o'-lantern that is completely battery-free, 100% pumpkin powered. So in the end, some words of advice. Number 1, buy the right bulb. Number 2, was it worth it to go through 9 pumpkins to get a faintly noticeable self-powered jack-o'-lantern? It totally was. But to put it into perspective, we are that family that will spend all day decorating their yard with Halloween inflatables and gravestones, even though we live in the middle of the woods and no one will ever see it. What can I say? We like Halloween. But if you want to make it easier on yourself, or if you want to stick to lemons, I highly recommend that kit off Amazon. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches. We hope you enjoy your Halloween. Stay safe out there, whatever your activities are going to be this year, and we'll see you next week.